Okay, here we go. Hello. Right then. So today it's going to be all Project Neo. And if you haven't come across Project Neo so far, hello, good Sir Sean. Good to see you. If you haven't come across this so far, I know you have, Shawnee. And hello, Bruce. And Project Neo is a web-based app from Adobe, and it's meant to be a similar experience to using Illustrator. But anyway, but in a 3D environment. When you first come here, so projectneo.adobe.com is where you can head for. Okay, and this is what you'll get. You'll get to sign in with your Adobe ID. If you haven't got one, go ahead, get one. And easy enough to do. And then you'll see all of these different community projects on here, different things that people have made using Project Neo. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of a mess around in Neo today. Oliver, hello, good sir. Caroline, hi. So very nice to see you peoples here. Slowly getting ramped up for stuff. The audio is only on the left channel for everyone else. Unfortunately, yes. I'm recording at the moment at the same time. So, unfortunately, the audio engineers prefer just the single channel. And I can't switch that over easily. It's a whole pin base thing. And I did have... we've had camera problems again and microphone problems again. So, it's just... the whole thing just needs rebuilding. Going to work on that, but for now just a single channel. I'm really sorry, but that gives you a spare ear to do something else with. So if you want to create your own background music at the same time, you could go ahead and do that. That way you'd have music. Hello Stuart, good to see you. Anyway, I will say hi to more peoples in a minute, but for now, so this is Neo. This is what we're going to be looking at today. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. So I'm going to do this from the ground upwards, as it were, so you can see what this all looks like. Neo is only web-based. It is, Bruce. I just saw that question out of the corner of my eye. Oh, and Oliver has, just to catch up on this before I start this thing, I've just changed it locally to send the same channel to both speakers. Very good. I like it. Honestly, next week, it will be fixed. Everything will be fixed next week. That's a big promise, Tony. But it will be fixed next week. I'm getting to it. It's just hard. I've got so much to do at the minute. It's just insane. One day, I promise you, one day you're going to find out what's actually gone on. And then you'll see. Anyway, right, so I'm going to create a new document here in Neo. And so this is it spinning up and creating me an environment just there. Okay. I am a ninja, Bruce. In fact, it's a little known fact, it's actually tattooed on my back. And my ninja-ness goes back to... well, if you watched Adobe Live, you probably know this already, right? I went to a martial arts academy for a while. Here, a younger, more washboardy tummy me went to a martial arts academy for about 18 months, something like that. And yeah, anyway, I was the ninja then. It's tattooed on my back. I'm the ninja now, but less washboardy, more washed uppy. Anyway, dun dun dun. Ninja tramp stamp. It's not that low on my back. It's on my back. It's just yeah, it says ninja and then some other stuff underneath it. Anyway, right, back to Neo, just for the time being. The late night streams are going to start sometime soon. Still haven't pinned on a date on that because it's not just me on my own. So but keep an eye out for that. Then we can just chat, because that is basically, it's not tutorials, it's just chat. So I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Anyway, this is, so at the moment, what we're seeing here, we'll ignore all the tools and all the other stuff just for the minute. Let's just focus on what the most obvious things that we can see. So this kind of camera area here, that's your document size. That's the size of the actual artboard. Now we can change that. If I go over to the side here to artboard, you can see that I've got some presets just here. So if I wanted to do a YouTube thumbnail, probably a good idea for this this particular one, then you can see the dimensions change. And of course, you can enter your own dimensions in here, right? You can also change the frame opacity. So if you only want to focus on the frame, you can do that. And also, because I'm going to do this right now, I can turn that frame off because I don't want to see it. I can also then collapse the artboard section of the scene panel here. So like a lot of other things these days, the interface for Neo is context based, right? You'll get different things showing up based on their context. So I've got a couple of starter things here. Almost everything is cube related in here. So if you use other things like Blender, Cinema 4D and so on, you'll be familiar with this kind of thing. If I just click here on this cube, now you'll see that the context has changed from scene to properties. And most of the time, that's where you will want to be, right? So now it's got all things to do with the properties of this particular object, right? And indeed, the environment in which we're in, right? So we've got this object just here, which I'm about to delete in a second, probably. Actually, no, this time I'll keep it. Okay, but now we're seeing those properties. So here we can see that material's color, for example. Let's just change that. Let's make that kind of a cool gray, but quite dark. There. That's going to act as a carpet for us today. There are some other things just on the side here as well. So layers. Okay, so the objects that you create in here, okay, are layers. This one's called base. It doesn't have to be called that. We're going to name things because it makes kind of sense to do that as we go through. Properties, well, we'll spend most of our time. We've also got this library. Now, at the moment, this is meant to connect to libraries, but it isn't just now. So I think this is a bit of a tease. I've not got anything to store in here. There's no way for me to add content, and I'm not seeing any of the stuff. And I have a substance collection, so I'm kind of not sure where that's going. At least I've not managed to get that to work yet. Here, and then we've got a generate panel, and that will allow us to generate things based on our artwork. Okay, so if I just click into that for a moment, okay, you can see that add a prompt and generate an image based on your scene. Your generated image will appear here, and there's a prompt region underneath. So you can inform. So this is kind of like having a reference image, a super powered reference image here in order to create. However, that isn't what I want to do right now. So I'm just going to click on the X here for the prompt, and that should return me back to the modeling environment like so. Okay. All right so far? Cool. Right, we'll deal with the camera controls and everything in just a moment, and all the stuff down at the bottom. Again, this properties or contextual taskbar, it's another CTB down at the bottom here. This will stay as it is, and as I select different things, then you'll see it's context based, so it will change. Let's go to the tools on the left hand side. Okay, so here are our tools. We've got a select tool, same shortcut as in Illustrator and so on. Okay, V to get to that. Okay, then you've got the edit shape. So that's kind of like direct selection in a way. David Cousins, hello. It's kind of like direct selection. Then here, okay, we've got the shape, which is what we're dealing with at the moment. Then we've got add text. So add shape, that gives us this secondary toolbar down the side here. We'll come to that momentarily. Then we've got some view controls. We've got orbit. Okay, just here, and then we've got pan, okay, and we've got zoom in there, okay. I use a trackpad, okay, so you can work with it with a trackpad. So if I just put 2 fingers down on my trackpad, you can see that I can orbit like so. I have not used a mouse for years. I used to have to for 3D work, but I tend not to, right? And I can use, of course, zooming in, like so, okay, and out just by pinching, okay, and spreading just there. So pinch, zoom out, 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 spread, zoom in. There we go. Lovely, nice and easy. If you're working along with this, let me know in the chat. I'm excited to find out if you are. Quick side note, nothing to do with Neo. David, I found a Kuretake reference in something I was working on this morning. I was planning on phoning you. If I get a chance, I'll phone you after this. If not, I'll give you a call tomorrow and tell you. Anyway, right, so we're talking pens, essentially, here. Right, so, hi, Daryl. Yeah, so we've got these things. Let's have a look at the other controls here. We've got this thing at the top here for snapshots here, so you can create a new snapshot, okay, of something. So if we need to do that, we can do that. In fact, let's just investigate that for a moment. I think, because I haven't actually, I don't think I've used the snapshot in here, but let's do it anyway. Let's go for a new snapshot. Let's not call it snapshot 1. Let's try and rename it just here. So you notice that I went to the ellipsis just there and clicked on that. Okay, and chose to rename it. So I'm just going to delete the contents that are in there. If anybody from the Neo team gets to watch this, right, just pop a little X in the side there, would you? Just so we can clear and void the contents of the field, so we don't have to like go delete, delete, delete. It's so bad. Ah, dear. Stuart is working, but he'd rather be playing in this program. Well, it's going to be useful. It's the future. 3 days the future. Okay, so let me just call this one here start, like so. Okay, and apply that. Now, if I change my view, I can't remember if this does or doesn't in here. Truth is, I don't think I've actually used it in here, but normally, if you go to a snapshot, there you go, it takes you back to that view. So that's a really handy thing to have, is to create snapshots, and also, presumably, at some point in the future, you would be able to animate between snapshots. Just saying, that's a guess from me, but I'm quite good at guessing, yeah, generally. We've got styles. Now we can, this is actually probably a good time to show you the styles anyway, because we're going to use this sort of realistic rendering mode here. I mean, this isn't going to be super exciting. I don't think anybody in the next minute or two is going to go, oh! Well, they might do, but not in the right way. Ben, hello, mate. Lovely to see you. Yeah, all good. Thank you very much. Well, you know, usual parameters apply, but yeah, all good. Let's have a look at this thing here, styles. We're going to go around sort of clockwise here. So if we go for styles, realistic is the mode that it's using it. So this is like a render mode for it. If you've used any products like a Google SketchUp or anything like, not Google SketchUp, Trimble SketchUp, Trimble SketchUp, then you'd be familiar with that, right? That you can do different styles for edges and faces and so on. But this is more simplistic at the moment. So realistic is what it's doing in that we're getting some idea of depth here with shading and so on. If we go to vector art, then it will render this as vector art. And it is live rendering, by the way. You just carry on working with it if you want to work in that mode. Okay, then there's nothing to stop you doing it. And what we're getting there is we're getting the colors that are given to the objects. Okay, but we're also getting this like edge style on here. So if we go to the styles again, you can see you can change the outline color just there, and also the thickness. So if I thought that 2 pixels was too thick, right, I could dial that down, or indeed dial it up, whatever suits the thing you're doing. So it's a really cool thing to have. The pixel one is kind of cool. So we're going to try that next. Here's our bit of pixel art, like so. Why? But you can, you know, but someone's going to need that. Now let me just zoom out here. You can see that it's kind of, it gets super funky as it goes along. I mean, the bigger it is, then, you know, you'll get a different view of that. Okay, and then we've got this one, and I'm going to be really honest with you, this is my least favorite rendering mode in any of the 3D applications I've used, and I've used quite a few, I guess. I'm waiting for someone somewhere to explain to me why this looks quite the way it does, but let's give it a go. Okay, so illustrative. Now this takes a little bit longer to render. Now at the minute, you can see there's very little change in there. It's almost like everything's got a painted, brushed texture over it. However, you get a lot more controls, right? So you can change the style of the texturing. Here you've got different choices. These, although they've got a number assigned to them, they are like different, completely different things. So I kind of like that spatter thing because, you know, young person of the 80s and all of that stuff. Global stroke size, so you can see how these things change like so. I'm starting to like it again. The edge breakup. Now you're seeing edge breakup. Hopefully, if you're looking on a phone even, you should be able to see this. Look at the cube in the middle there, the white cube, and you'll see that the edges there are tattered. Yeah, so it's not clearly defined, and so that's your edge breakup value. Right, and if I take that right the way down, then it's kind of acceptable to me for this in the main, but there might be times where you really do want to go that. The only thing is when computers try to go super free, yeah, it's tends not to work brilliantly, but it's this, you know, this is an early days project just here. The intensity of the ambient light, so that's the surrounding light, which is not the single naked light bulb I have hanging up in here. Sorry about that again, another thing. So the ambient light is the surrounding light, so you can take the ambient light intensity down. I don't think that's going to have that much of an effect on just this bunch of small objects. In fact, that appears to be doing absolutely nothing in case it takes a moment to catch up. And then the blending intensity. Right, now blending we'll talk about in a little bit, but that's kind of interesting. Just there, you can set it also to outline, and you can set the outline tolerance in here, the outline color, so things that go around the edge. You can see all of that good stuff in there. Okay, so you can change all of these things. This is the sky, and of course the shadows are a reflection of the sky. All of that stuff. Not my favorite, right? But anyway, there we go. It does look like tofu, Jay. That's a good shout. It does indeed. Right, so I'm going to take this back to realistic, like so. Okay, you've also got controls here for the environment. Okay, so where the light direction is coming from. If you've used anything like Adobe Dimension or Substance Stager, or many other applications for that matter, you would be familiar with this concept of rotation and height. Okay, so just imagine, let's imagine just for a moment that you've got a dolly, so that's a stand with wheels, and you've got a pole coming up from the top of that, and then you've got a light on there, and you've got a subject in the middle of the room. So as you wheel the dollied light around, of course that's changing the direction, right? But then you think, well, you know, it could do with being a bit lower or a bit higher, so you unclamp the stand for the light, and then you push the pole up or down as needs be, and you change the height of that. So you can see that now that's very high, like right on top of it, and if you bring it down, it's lower, so you're going to get long shadows, like so. Okay, that makes sense? So it's like another axis that branches over the top, okay, of the light. So that, use that analogy of like having a little lighting stand and you're wheeling it around like so, and also you can adjust the height up and down just there. All right, and then you've got a shadow distance. So plenty of controls you can use, and you can determine whether or not the floor itself casts shadows and so on. You've got all of those options there. Okay, moving on. So if I zoom out a bit here, the next control moving clockwise around here is this one. Okay, this is framing. Okay, so we've got a few different options here. If I make a selection, okay, to start off with, and click on this, and there are shortcuts attached to them as well. It knows I'm on a Mac, right? So it's put Mac shortcuts in there. I'm presuming it would do Control F and Shift Control F for Windows. Okay, but here, frame scene, that frames the entire thing like so. Okay, remember the document size is what it's doing. It's not working to the window size, working to the document size. just there, and then we've got frame selection, okay, which zoomed us up. If we just go ahead and turn on the frame again just very quickly, you can see how that's working. There you go. If I turn that back on, now you can see all of that good stuff. Okay, and that will disappear when I go back to this. Okay, so we've got frame scene, frame animation, and recenter. Like so, you've also got an option here which is currently off. This one for auto frame. Okay, that will just frame stuff and just move the camera as you're moving. If you're moving stuff around, maybe you like that. Okay, all right, but most of the time I don't ever have that on, but most of the time off. Okay, let me just undo the movement of that shape just for a moment, same as you would ordinarily. I'm just holding down the space bar on my keyboard, okay, and then just panning across like so. All right, so that navigation, if you work in Illustrator and you use things like the space bar to navigate, you can do exactly that from there, right? So there's no difference between that and Illustrator really, if you want. Next, then we've got some camera controls. Now the camera controls appear, so the camera is the thing you're looking through right now, right? That's what's giving us this view. It's a camera that's taking us into this virtual world. Now it allows us here, okay, to turn to the left and right. This one allows us to turn up and down. Okay, so if I turn this to the right, you can see that it's just turning like so. And if I go back the other way, nice and easy, right? You can also click and drag on the gradation if you want to. Okay, like that. If you want to do the same, you can do exactly the same here. So you can go up and down. Okay, and again, you can drag the gradation if you want to. Let's go back to our start position there like so. Okay, then we've got this snap camera orientation here if we need to do that. So if you need to snap that to a particular thing, then you can do. Okay, so it'll move it in set increments just here. Okay, so if I turn that on and then go round, you can see it's snapping. It's not journeying there, it's just going straight to those places. There we are, good. I'm going to turn that off now. Down on the right hand side here, or over on the right hand side here, we have these options. These are the objects we've created. So there are only two things in here at the moment. We can click on them to select the objects. We can also reorder them. You can reorder them by dragging, okay, if you want to, but well, I think so. Pretty sure you can. There you go. Worked this time. It didn't work last time. Weird. You can also use the arrows to move them up and down in the stacking order, and that is important because there are some things you're going to want to do, okay, that work with the stacking order. And by the way, because we're not going to get through too much in this particular stream, if you want to see more Neo like next week, then we can do that. Okay, that's otherwise we'll be drawing maps next week. But so. All right then, so there's our basically our layers, our object list. You've got an ellipsis at the bottom to say hide the mini layer widget. That's a good thing to have open because it's easier than opening this thing all the time and then going back to the properties like so. Much easier. Then down at the bottom we have our CTB just here, which as we've already determined here is context sensitive. Just going to grab a quick glug of coffee because I'm getting a bit croaky. Ah, lovely. Okay, so right then, let's have a play with some of the objects. Again, we're just going to stick with this cube just for the time being. Okay, so we'll come to edit in a second, but for now, let's look at the universal controls here. If you've ever worked in a 3D environment, these will be, or should be, immediately fairly familiar to you. Okay, so the first one we've got here, this arrow, allows us to move it up and down in the y-axis, like so. These ones at the side allow us to move in the x and z axis from there. And if I just go ahead and come down, and I've just scrolled down here. In fact, I could collapse some of these just for the moment, just so we've got transform available here, right? Because this will make it easier for you to understand. We can use the position values here so you know which one's doing which. Right, so if I go ahead and get this arrow and click and drag like so, you can see that this is controlling the x-axis, right? So where the object is on the x-axis, you can see there that the number has changed. And this one, okay, is the z-axis, just there, backwards and forwards. Now, if you imagine that you were looking at this straight on, like so, I mean more or less straight on, so we can still see the controllers, then you can see how that will make more sense. X going across, okay, Y going up and down, and Z coming forward and backwards towards the camera. Okay, there we go, nice and easy. Let's take that back to where it was. Okay, then you've got these which allow you to rotate across the perpendicular axis to that. So this, okay, is going to rotate here on the y-axis, right? Where it says that it's rotating on the y-axis, but of course it's rotating on the x across that. Okay, and then you have this one. You can hold down shift to constrain it, okay, which is sometimes a very useful thing to do. Okay, and you can see how you can twist things around. And moving things in 3D space can be interesting, and it's quite often a good idea to use the numbers. Yeah, because you look at these right now on the side here, hopefully you can see those. This is at 45 degrees on the x-axis and 45 degrees on the z-axis. It's not a straightforward rotation, so it does take a little bit of getting your head around, and sometimes you want to get things to certain places, and there we go. Okay, right, so we've also got widgets here for scale, and we can scale on those axes as well. So if I click on this one and drag outwards like so, okay, you can see how it's scaling on that axis. I'm going to do the same thing up here and the same thing here to scale all of those. Okay, we also have, okay, some other controls around the outside. So this one allows us a sort of a different kind of rotation here, which is a useful thing to have also. I'm just going to undo those last few steps to go back to the cube here. Okay, and then we have some things for moving. Okay, so this one just allows us to freely move like so, which is okay, but this one allows us to move and gives us a grid, which is very, very useful, okay, to have. All right, so that sometimes, especially when you're working with more than one object, you're going to be working with more than one object, right? Then you can do that, okay? And then we've got global scaling in the corner, okay, and the rotation, the edge rotation thing, there you go. If I just pull that one outwards, you can see how I'm getting nice soft corners on the edge there. Goody goody. Okay, on to all of those things to get us back to this particular point. So the big blue one above it for edit. Now you can access that in two ways. You can either click on edit, you can also tap A on your keyboard, which switches you to the edit shape tool. Now if you're an Illustrator user, hopefully what you're seeing here will become much more obvious, okay? But you're just looking at it in a 3D situation rather than, okay, the 2D environment you're usually used to. So just imagine you've drawn a rectangle on the artboard. You would have handles, okay, on the corners to change the size of that. And if you held down shift, you would constrain them. So just like you would with a rectangle, and hold that thought, it's a good thought to have. Okay, you've also got these widgets here, okay, which allow you to round. Now that's rounding the top and bottom corners there, or one of them is, the other one's rounding. They do it independently, and the widgets do take a little bit of getting used to. These ones on the very corners, they will round off, okay, the corners like so. So you've got lots and lots of different options you can have, but just start to think about these as a rectangle. Once you're done, just tap done, and that's it, and you're back into moving this around as you would normally. Now I'm just going to undo those steps just there. Okay, keeping this thing live then, just for the moment. Let's do a few things with it. So you've got various different options here for the material. I'm not going to worry too much about those just for a second, but we will have a little bit of a play with them. So let's go ahead and make this a very different color. There, like so. Let me know if this is hurting your eyes yet. I'm not going to change it, but I just want to know if it's hurting your eyes. Okay, so now we've got that going on. Actually, that's hurting my eyes, and that's kind of important. It's kind of a big deal, seeing as I'm doing this, right? Okay, so we can change the roughness of the material, which will change how light interacts with it. Think about the difference between a billiard ball, okay, generally very glossy, very shiny. We're going to come to the shiny property in a moment. And think from a texture point of view, think of a tennis ball, right, which is quite a textured surface, or a basketball, right? Both basketball, especially because it's it's a thing for traction on the hands. A basketball that was as smooth as billiard ball, be interesting, I think, especially from the catching point of view. But anyway, right, so that's the roughness aspect of that. And of course, both of those things behave differently in light because the light rays hitting them, yeah, and different things are happening with the roughness of that. Light rays are scattering in a different way when they're hitting to the way they are when something is shinier or here metallic. Now, metallic isn't going to show us a lot right now, but when you've got metallic all the way over to 100%, that is very, very, very shiny. Let's just have a quick look actually on the illustrative styles and see what we get there. Yeah, I mean, it's quite high contrast, but I just wanted to have a quick look at that. But if you want stuff that's shiny, yeah, metallic is the way to go. And it's not about the way you see it here in the environment. It's the way that you export it, which you will see more of that on it, right? So that's our metallicity in there. He says making up a brand new English word, but fully props to me, like so. And you can determine whether or not something is reflective. Now, when you've got other objects in the scene, okay, let's go ahead and add one. So if I go here and add a sphere, so these are I've switched to the object tool here, which you'll do by clicking on any of these things. And I'm going to come across and I'm going to click and I'm going to add another object, tapping V there to go back to my tools. That's interesting. Why aren't you selecting? Let's pick up that one. There we go. We'll do that. Can you see now if I use this? So if let me just use these two move things again. Okay, here I can just move that wherever I want to move it. But when I use this one, you can see I get this grid at the same time. And I can use that to inform, okay, where this object is going. Okay, so you can see that if I zoom in on there a bit more, you can see the shadow that's being cast or being received by that object as well. Just here, let's change its metallicity property. Actually, it would have been better to do that on the ball, but anyway, let's do that. And reflective, and we should, there you go. So now it's a very shiny object that is actually allowing a reflection as well. And you can see the ball being reflected in it there, like so. Loads of possibilities here, by the way. Right, lots and lots of things to get very, very excited about. Right then, so it is indeed magic. It's super good. Now, when I'm clicking here to select, by the way, at the moment it's selecting the floor for some reason. So I'm actually using the object widget here to pick up this one, moving this around. I'm going to take this right out of the way for a second, and I'm going to move it upwards. And then let's just bring it back in that area. See, this is where this is super, super invaluable. Just there, right, that I can position that just like that and know that that corner, right, is interacting with that. Let's just have a bit of a pan or an orbit around in here. There you go. You can see how that's working. So you have to learn to trust the interface. Trust this, so you can see that I've got that corner overlapping the shape. Now, to be honest, from the view that we have at the moment, you might think, well, they're not interacting at all. They're not even close. But when you orbit, you can see that they actually are very, very close indeed. So the user interface is giving us the information you need. And this is something, back when I used to train people in SketchUp, yeah, years and years ago, that used to be a thing. It used to be, don't try and eyeball things. Use the interface. It's been built that way to help you, because the environment you're working in, okay, is a representation of it, not its actuality. It's not like the 3D world that we imagine. At some point in the future, probably will be, right? But right now it isn't. So trust the interface. Okay, I'm going to just bring this around. In fact, I could use the widget again. Let's do that. So if I just go ahead and grab that object, I think I'm going to take this up to the top of the stack. That should probably stop it from go. There we go. Now, it still doesn't want to select that sphere. What is going on there? Let's bring it down to the bottom. There we go. I'll do it this way. Right, so I'm just going to take this out of the way for a second, because we're going to play with this in a minute. Right, so I'll close or actually give that a different color. There, like so. Okay. Hopefully, for your own visual requirements, can you group items and shapes? Yes, you can, and I'll be showing you that in a minute, Bruce. Yeah, that is absolutely what you can do, and in some way you've got to work with these things. Just one thing as well, but at the top, given I've given it this color, all of the files that you open will be given a name, right? And that name, yeah, is a color. Yeah, so you'll get something like pink or fuchsia or yellow or magnolia or all of these different, it will give you a different color thing on here. You can change that. You just double click on it and name it however you want to name it. You'll also see that at the moment this is shared, right? So other people can view this design. I bet anybody that watches is viewing this design. In fact, you could go along and play with this yourself, get your own copy of it afterwards and play with it, do your own thing with it. It won't be affecting my copy of it. You'll just be creating another copy spawned from it. But that is perhaps something for next week, which is what it's looking like we're going to be before we actually model that much. But anyway, right then, so coming down from the appearance attributes just here, next we're into the exciting area. And no, Bruce, you're all good. Good questions are good, man. Honestly, you're not jumping ahead at all. That is something we will be tackling. Okay, so now we've got the options here for how this is dealing with. So add is the default for most things, right? So if you go ahead and do this, now there's a couple of things we're going to wait until next week for on here, but there you are. These two things are adding together like so. I'm using just the universal widget here to move this around. In fact, I think I'm going to put that, let's put that just there, and let's change our view so you can see what's going on there. All right, so add is normal. You've also got color. Okay, now you can see that's a little bit like intersect. Okay, just a little bit like intersect. You can see that now that object's color is being added just there. Now that gives you a lot of options. If you do play with this, one of the things, and in fact it's the main Neo thumbnail, the Neo mascot is a running cat with headphones and sneakers and a nice big tail on it, and the tail is striped, and it's this property here, right, color, yeah, that allows you to do that, right? So you've got one object, but then you intersect it or use the color mode to do that. It's not actual intersection because that actually is down here in a subtractive mode, but I'm just thinking of it in that 2D way. It's like color transference. Repel, we're going to come back to that, and avoid, another thing we'll come back to. The subtractive modes like carve, now have another look at this. If I just click away from it to deselect it, right, you can see that what's happened here, right, is this object, I've drawn a love heart for Valentine's Day. Yes, you can applaud now. I mean, it's upside down, but you know, in it. But you can see how that's working. Now that object, this is where using this, once you start doing these things, that's where using this widget is super, super useful. Just there, thank you for the hearts, loving it. Okay, so this is a really good way to select things, and in some ways, yeah, it's an essential way to select them. Okay. Also, Bruce, your question isn't that far ahead, because there are going to be times, if you imagine you're building something that's got a lot of objects in it, you need to manage those objects, right? You need to, and having them all just sat here in a big long line, not going to be terribly efficient. You're going to screen grab it and put it on Bridget's card. Do you want me to rotate it around for you, Ben? Do you want me to orbit around so it's in? Because I can. I don't mind. Do you want me to? Let's just rotate the view just here. Oh, I'm going to take me a minute to get back to that. Oh no, it's always going to want to be upside down, Tony, you lemon. Anyway, I suppose I could do it over on this side. Let's try for Ben, so that Bridget gets her V card from there. Oh, nearly. Anyway, you can always do it from just do it. Just go back to the thing on the stream when it's on demand later on and do it. Okay, so we've got that. The other mode that we have is intersect. Okay, now that is a true intersection, that area. So I would see this is me making for you Edam cheese in its classic red wax side. So those things are intersecting together. All three things there are intersecting, coming to that in a second, right? Because you might be thinking, well, why is that happening? Right, you'll see in just a moment. Right, so we've got these things here. The area that is common to all is the area, okay, that you see left over. If you struggle with that concept, then what you can do is go to Illustrator, draw two shapes, overlap them to some degree, make sure they're both selected, and then go into the pathfinders and use the intersect shape mode. And you'll see that only the area that is common to both of those things is the bit that remains. Yeah, and that's exactly the same here, but it's working on the objects themselves. Yeah, so you will get your head around it. It's not like a super hard concept, honestly. I'm just going to take these back to add, or I need to select this one. Oh, actually, no, I'm going to leave that where it is for a moment because I forgot about this thing on the floor. So why is the floor part of, okay, that whole scheme? Why is the floor becoming part of the intersect? And it's all to do with this stack order just here. Everything underneath that, okay, is being affected, okay, by that. Now, what we could do, let's see what happens here, just because, you know, Bruce said it earlier on. If we were to change that, we could perhaps group it, Command G, like so, okay, but our floor is still in that calculation. Just at the moment, it's changing it. But if I take the floor up above the object, ba-ba, it's not being affected by it. So the stack order is important. Now at the moment it doesn't respect the intersect operation, or indeed any of the combine operations. Okay, in hey Frank, it doesn't respect those things just at the moment, but in the future I dare say that will. But you do have to be mindful of the stacking order. There's the group just there. You could do the same thing, okay, from the button just here. In fact, let's just click ungroup shape there. Same command, okay, as you get inside of Illustrator. So Command G to group, Shift Command G, okay, to ungroup, or Shift Control G if you're on Windows. There's that stacking order again. But when you select objects, if I grab hold of these two things here, for example, then you can see in the CTB down at the bottom, the contextual taskbar. It's easier, so much easier to say CTB, right? You've got group shapes just there, but you've also got Command G, Control G, okay, to play with as well. As we are, we've got about 14 minutes left. So let me know if you want to see more of it, and we can actually build out a model next. So I'll show you a model that I'm using at the moment for training here. So I've got that on this account. I also have a separate account for my work stuff. But if you want to see more of this, pop it in the chat, okay, and I will continue this next week. And I think it's worthy of continuation because that way you can start building stuff and having fun with it. And it's genuinely fun. Okay, right, so here's that object just there. I'm going to take that back to add so it's normal on there. Normal. Okay. All right, so we've got those things. Let's do the super fun, exciting one, okay? And what I'm going to do is just change my view just here, my view. I'm going to change my view just there like so, okay? Let's use that widget so I know where that is, right? It's sitting right over the top of it at the moment. You can see that, right? The square underneath it is showing me that the center, right, of the sphere is immediately over that edge of the cube underneath. And there's Emily. Hello, Emily. Fantastic. Good. Right, next week will be more Neo then. We can build something out in Neo. Okay, so right, so we've got this sphere here like so, immediately over the top of that. What we're going to do is this. We are going to change this blending control there like so. Now, just watch carefully. I'm changing my view again. Right, I'm going to take it just a little bit further away. Just for a minute. Right, so I'm just pushing up this blending slider. Can you see what's happening? Can you see how the ball, or the sphere, okay, is changing its shape? Let's have an orbit around that. Ooh. That bottom edge of the sphere that is closest to the shape underneath, that really wants to you know, to go ahead and and be friends with that cube. Let's take it down towards the cube, and look, now they both want to be friends. Isn't that beautiful? Now look at that. You can see how they are joining together like so. That blending operation, right, maxed out as it is. Now you can change the intensity of the blend. Now at the moment it's, you know, right, that gives you quite a lot to do. So imagine just for a moment, let's do something with this. Let's actually make something with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to universally scale this down like so. Okay, so the whole thing there being scaled. Then I'm going to scale upwards like so. Yeah, that wants to play already. All right, I'm going to just bring that down a bit further. Top points, by the way, if you can work out what it is I'm going to create from this, because, you know, we should create something. But top points if you work out what I'm going to create before I actually create it. Yeah, so let's go up like so. Anybody got it yet? Anybody know what it is I'm after making just here? Get you, match. There you go. Daryl, cool. Was Daryl, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So let's take this now. Let's take this up towards the top here. Now, the only thing that is difficult, if you would expect there to be some form of alignment if you selected a couple of objects here, right? You would expect that not just at the minute. Properties for multiple objects selected, not supported yet. So really it's a numbers thing. You were close. It's a numbers thing just here, okay, to get them. Also, I don't think I've seen that before, that proximity slider. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead. Oh, yeah, I have. Yeah. Right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm using that object widget at the moment just to take that up like that. Then I'm going to grab this thing here, which of course allows me to position it like so. Okay, it's pretty much on it. That could do with being just a shade bigger. So let's go ahead and do that. There we are. Now that's working nicely. Let's take that up. That could be blended even more. Let's give it more strength. And take that up and away. There we go. But yeah. Strikeable. Good stuff. Now, interestingly, where's my window gone from the stream? Let's just find out what's gone wrong with that. Hold on just a second. And weird. Okay, hold on a sec. Let's try and get you back. There we go. Perfect. Lost you for a moment there. Light it up. Now, if I wanted to manipulate these two things together, of course, which I probably would do, then selecting those and grouping them makes a lot of sense, because now if I wanted to rotate that around in space, I wasn't quite on the money. This is where the numbers would have worked out really, really well. But you can see how I can rotate that around. I'm just going to undo that. Let's go for the ungrouping of that, or just double click. Here, now I'm inside of that group, which is good. Let's make a note of the position of this, okay, in here. Now, at the moment, this is saying is at 0 position. And what's this one at? So let's go into that group. So 0 and okay. So what I would need to do, we don't need this to change. Just on the X and Z, 0, tab down through there, and 0. That's it. So now that should be pretty much on the money. Now if I go ahead and grab that, like so, there you are. All right, so that's working together just like that. And if I thought, well, that match head's maybe a little bit big just now, there's nothing to stop me going into the group again, targeting that object, and then just using that universal control there, right, to scale that down a little bit and change the position of that, okay, in relation to the object underneath. It's good, right? Real good, I think. Okay, so I'm going to come out of this thing just for now. More on that next week. I'm going to show you a couple of the projects I have here on my personal account. And let's go with this one first, which is called Not Grey, because its original name was Grey. That's what it was originally. Somebody's been in here, I think. Let's just frame that scene. That's very interesting. Right, so let me go ahead now and orbit around here. What is going on there? Ooh. Look at that. Right, so that drippy... someone has been in here. Now, someone else has access to this. They've been in here and changed the typeface on that type. That's a bit naughty, and then just to leave it like that. Really naughty. I'll be having words with them in a minute. Anyway, right, so you can see that one. That's using blending, okay, with capsules. That's another shape here. Okay, we'll talk about more about the shapes as we go on. Right, but that's using that to get that wax effect. Now, trust me that honestly, when this was, now that's grouped, right, so I'd have to get into the actual group for each one of those things. So that letter's grouped, which means I'd need to go in here and change that. Okay, or maybe the font list might have changed from there. But anyway, let's just go with that. No, so that's been tinkered with. So I'll find out what happened with that. But anyway, you can see that how that's working. Pumpkin here doing something slightly different. Let's come out of that one and let's go into the copy of this one. So this is the one I'm using for training at the moment. It's called Comfy Living. Okay, and you can see here it's a little room shape. It's got a lamp inside of it, a couple of seating thingies. It's got this little sofa thing just there. Okay, so you can see that like so. Let's go back to frame the scene. And actually, I'll just rotate that around. There we go. Something like that. We've got that armchair. We've got this picture at the back. Okay, which in itself is 1, 2, 3, 4 different 3D objects in there. A door with a door handle, an aperture, a TV on the side. You can see the screen is reflecting some things here. We've got this unit. There's like a games console there. There's some books. Let's just zoom in on those and pan around like so. Let me just turn the thing off there. So we've got these drawers, we've got these little books here, we've got a robot, the Tonebot 5000 in there. So the Tonebot's there, all made out of the little shapes. There's a little cable up the back there to the whole room. Okay, so you can see all of that. The lamp is actually using some blending to make that, and then there's the lamp shade on top. And of course, lovely floor. So this is the one I'm using for training at the moment. Okay, so hopefully we can get away to making a lot more stuff next week. You want a Tonebot 5000? Thank you, man. How long did it take me to do this one? It's a couple of hours, I think, Bruce. Because it's not just making it. I have to, when I do things like, so that's the reason there's a separation between the work account and my personal account, is I don't just have to think about it from the point of view of I want to make a room. I have to think about the different teaching points that I'm going to weave into it to get you. So this one is designed to get you from nothing to get you into actually using the application. It uses quite a lot of the, not all, but quite a lot of the features in here. You can see here the structure inside, lots of groups. There's lots of individual items in here as well. And that Christmas tree just at the back is just there, or say Christmas tree, it's a fir tree. Right, okay, then there's the blue from the sky, that one. And then that's the cable in there. That's the frame on the side. Let me just pop that back up into the right order just there. There we go. Yeah, so I think about it from a different way. Right, I think about it from, you're in a training room with me, or we're doing an online training session, and you want to learn how to use this stuff. Yeah, then those are the considerations I make. Yeah, so it goes through a whole process of doing that. But I mean, I don't know what you think, but this is it's an accessible, it's an easy way to get started project. If you like it, let me know. But we'll do some more of this next week, and then you can find out how this works with Illustrator, which is the really exciting bit. Okay, quick question from Daryl. Do you know if Neo will get an update to work on the iPad in the near future? I do not know that at all, but I tell you what, I would be surprised if it didn't. I would be surprised if it didn't, but yeah, anyway, we'll get to all of that. If I find out, mind you, they're not gonna give that sort of information away this time of the year. If there was work on that, that will be something that I would think would be saved for the autumn time. Yes, but trust me, there is a really cool connection between this and Illustrator, but that will be revealed next week. All right, we're done for now. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's very, very nice to be back here with you lot, and I'll see you next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Thank you so much. See you later. Thank you. Bye.